I have been invited to present for a telesummit as a master teacher. And the topic of this telesummit it's something like MC cubed, how to have more confidence, more clients, and more cash. All of that sounds pretty good, right? And I am going to be interviewed as a master teacher. And first of all, that gives me pause, right? I'm a master teacher? Really? Am I? So I thought about that and I was like, well, hell yeah, I am a master teacher. And it's not because of what I know. In fact, I think if anything makes me a master, it's the fact that I know how much there is that I don't know. And that every person I talk to and every person I help is as much my teacher as I am theirs, if not more. And that the wisdom and the insight and any questions that I ask and suggestions that come forth really come forth from them. So, all right, that was my first hurdle. Okay. Can I call myself a master teacher? Yes. And by the way, I think you're a master too, whether you recognize it or not. I'll just get on my little soapbox there for a second and tell you that. Secondly, these are the questions that are going to be asked me. Like, if there was a strategy that you could give to our audience for how to get more clients and make more cash, what would it be? What kind of a question is that, right? That was my first thought. But I'm really good at rising to the challenge. Sometimes I've been told I'm a slow starter, but once I get into it, the ideas start coming. So I'm like, all right. That was yesterday. I read through these questions and I thought, oh my God, how am I going to answer this stuff? And then I slept on it. And there is something magical about that. Let me tell you, it comes through for me again and again. When I have a question and I just form that question and sit with it and sleep on it, it might take a day. It might take a couple days. Who knows? For a really big question, it might be longer, but the answers come. And so in my sleep last night, I'm literally composing and writing answers to these questions. And one of the things that came to me was, all right, I'm so sick of leading with strategy. I am really good at coming up with action strategies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've been doing this for years. I am really, really good at it. But what I've noticed is that if I'm just giving you a strategy, sure, might help you a little bit, but oftentimes it's not really what you need, or I'm not sure it's what you need. It's not really serving you. And let me give you an example of this. There was someone I was talking to recently, and when I asked what her biggest challenge in her business was, she told me that it was that her clients, they want too much and they're not paying her for it. So, they've got these packages or they've got these sessions that she's doing, and then they email her with questions in between, and she feels like she's answering these questions and they're really taking value without paying her for it, and it's not fair. So that's her challenge. How do I deal with this? Do I need to set more firm boundaries? And on talking to her and just asking a few questions around that, just like, so what do you want to be giving them these responses? In a perfect world, what would this look like? And what did she say to me? She said, well, I really don't want to be doing one-on-one sessions at all. I want to be teaching. Bam! So if I had just given her the strategy and said, if we'd just gone right to that strategy point and said, okay, well, what you need to do is set boundaries with your clients or create these kinds of packages, and that's the strategy and the tactic. That might have helped her a little, but what she was really wanting was, I really want to go after teaching. I really want to talk to large groups. I want to get my message of impact in front of as many people as possible. And if I'd just gone for the strategy, if we had just gone to the strategy, we never would have discovered that. So I'm sick of that. It's kind of like I can give you the strategy and yeah, maybe it'll help you 10%, but you're missing out on the 90% that happens when you are clear about what you want, why you want it, and what you're really trying to create here. And you understand what you really need, not just what you think you need, because what we think we need is usually not what we actually need. I find that out because if you knew what you actually needed, you would get it and you would fix your own problem, right? So there's this big unknown thing. So now I'm going back to thinking about these questions for this MC cubed event. And how can you get more clients and more cash when I don't have somebody sitting in front of me to ask those questions, to be able to, for us together to discover what the right path of action would be? That's really challenging, right? So the thing I came to that has to happen first before the strategy is ask the most powerful question. And this goes back to what I was talking about before. What is the most powerful question you could ask to get the answer you're looking for? So here's a question I could ask myself. How can I make $50,000 this month? That's a question. And that's a pretty good question, right? But it's pretty general. And, I could make $50,000 by selling my house. I could get into an accident and sue somebody, God forbid. And no, I have no plans to do that, right? What if I put some parameters on it and I said, how can I make $50,000 this month in a way that is easy and fun and is something that I really want to do? Okay, now this is sounding a little bit better, right? Now I've got a question that's a little more powerful. But I want to challenge myself to ask the most powerful question that I could ask. And that's something like, how can I co-create something with my community, with my audience, that has maximum value for everyone involved, that is easy and fun to do, and benefits all parties? Now that is a broader question, right? Now that is opening things up. In fact, when I say $50,000, that's sort of limiting it. Now, I believe in having goals, but when it comes to asking the more powerful question, you want something that's open, because our minds are going to try to figure that out. And the first thing the mind is going to say when I ask a question like that of it, it's going to go, I have no freaking clue. I have no idea. Stephanie, why are you asking me this question? I ask questions of people all the time when we're in sessions, and they'll say, I don't know. And sometimes they'll say, I don't know. That's why I hired you. Aren't you supposed to be the one that has the answers? and I'll tell them sometimes, I'll preface the question, I'm going to ask a really tough question right now. It's okay that we don't have the answer, but I need to ask it. How can we? Ask that powerful question. Because what happens is that our minds like to know that they know. They want to figure things out. They need to believe, our mind, our ego needs to believe that we know the answers. And when you come up with I don't know, immediately your mind is going to make a judgment. And it's going to say something like, well, I don't have experience there. That's why I don't know. And dismiss it. Judgment, close the door. But if you really want to find the answer, it's not going to come from your mind. The mind is powerful. It's what we use to focus on the goal that we want. And by asking that question, we are opening ourselves up to a deeper wisdom within us to receive that answer. And it comes from someplace other than the mind. And we're not used to that in the West. And I haven't been very used to that. In fact, I've only started doing this a couple years ago. And even most recently, and it's so powerful. So ask that question and just open to receiving it and acknowledge that you don't know, and it's okay that your mind isn't going to know, and just let it go and wait. Have you ever had that happen where you had a question about something or you couldn't figure something out, but you said to yourself, it'll come to me. I'll get it. I'm going to remember this thing. And lo and behold, a day or two later, out of the blue, you're outside taking a walk, you're laughing with the kids, you're playing with the dog, and bam, there's the idea. You're meditating, you're in the shower, right? You're not even thinking about it, and there it is. And how did that happen? Did that come from your brain? My opinion, no. Maybe you disagree, that's okay. But by allowing that question to be there and not forcing your brain to answer it, you have the key to everything you need to know. So that's what I'm somehow going to lead with in this interview. I'm going to say that, like, ask the more powerful question. And there's an exercise you can do every single day. And I think I got this from Ryan. Oh, he's the author of a book called Ego is the Enemy. And I think it was this particular guy who recommended this technique. But what he said is that every day he thinks of what's the most powerful question, the most valuable question I can ask today. And he writes it down, and he just writes down that question. And then he lets it go and goes through his day. And just wait and see what happens when you start asking questions like that. It is amazing. We have depths of wisdom. You have wisdom that you haven't even begun to tap yet. And having the courage to ask an unanswerable question, to ask what I would call an imponderable, is how you'll discover how amazing you are. So give it a try and let me know what happens.